Okie dokie, this is a new experiment in how to write. You'll see. The singular fact, the North Star, is that, quote, they are just like, quote, the rest of us. And this seems to be impossible to admit for communities who have decided they are special or different. I was visiting a friend of a friend in Cambridge, England once. She was a student there. We sauntered around the quads and she started telling me about the May balls and the vandalism that ensued. You might not know about those. They have exams in May, and then afterwards they have big parties and they destroy a lot of property. She was a student, yeah. I didn't know what to say. It sounded like good-spirited hijinks that goes wrong sometimes, like soccer hooliganism. I said. She did not speak to me again. Quote, if you prick us, do we not bleed? Quote, we are like you in the rest, we shall resemble you in that. And quote, if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? Shylock, Merchant of Venice. Argument, it is the greatest of creations. It is not even sympathetic. It is only very, very, very real. I am just not interested in a they and us world beyond folk dancing. I think I must have wondered a long time whether there was a distinct community that did not kill like the rest of us. It was put into my head when I was 11 years old and came to the US. Much time and effort was spent in school convincing me I was in a country like no other, an exceptional place where the best in humanity was flourishing. However, in a year or two, the reality of Vietnam and American racism foisted itself upon me. But these realities were presented as hiccups, or that the great virtuous superior state has to do nasty things sometimes, but in the name of the greater good, or something. Old men will still say Vietnam was about defending our way of life from the impending communist invasion of California, I suppose. You see, you can do this with God on your side. Quote, where in the name of common sense are our fears to end if we may not trust our sons, our brothers, our neighbors, our fellow citizens, end quote. Alexander Hamilton, Federalist 29. Fellow citizens, neighbors, well, yes, sons, brothers, wives, daughters, and sisters, he seemed to say, but beyond that is Tartar territory. I don't know how other people work, but I have found myself predisposed to enjoying anyone I meet. It has just panned out that way. 99 out of 100 encounters are joyous. Maybe we could do a poll. I don't know how I would feel were I brought up to believe that I was part of a separate group, that my essential difference was essential. I actually wonder sometimes if the fractured nature of my rearing, divorce of parents, moving different nations, continents, dealing with cultures and races I was not born into, all through the hideous handicaps, all thought to be hideous handicaps, comma, all helped. There was no sheltering culture I remember. Western culture does not shelter. There was security. When the parents' marriage fell apart, I was 13, but had felt it coming for some 4 years. Strife, violence once or twice, and the protection came from all quarters. So that'd be Trinidadians and Pittsburghians. I don't remember them all, but they were black, white, Indian, Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Muslim, Trinidadians and Americans. These were the people I was among at that time. There was such security that I have to say I was unaware of it, which is as it should be, really. I'd add without rancor that my group was the most absent. In concluding, I feel this allocation of family, this spread, this village, has been a great positive reality for me. Relying on the kindness of strangers is quite a jolt to our philosophy of tribalism and religion as a unifier. Isn't it the Samaritan story? Though I was born in Britain, I had not been there long enough to feel the superiority insistence. I took no joy in the pink bits. What a dull life one must lead to take pride in the pink bits. And ironically, both my countries persecuted the Jews mercilessly, Britain in particular, until Israel was created. Then I guess they got legit in Western eyes. I think the borders of country create legitimacy, especially for cultures who colonized. The British and the US have tried over the years to appear to be this special culture. The presumption of superiority is on the one hand based on the delusion of Western benevolence, and at the same time on the fact of gobsmacking military superiority. I suppose it is as simple as the myth of non-retaliation, that part of us that we all imagine is religious and transcendent. Or do I? I did, but I think it was naive, not real, or a sort of Bruce Lee response to aggression. There is something here that Israel is doing that every culture I know up close has done before without thinking that I had imagined some small culture that would find the way to rise above, hitting back. Europe has done it reflexively since forever. Who on 9/11 said, wait a minute. The US has always done it. I believe it is a cultural value. Newscasters will say we have to strike back. Biden must, or he will appear weak. Bruce Lee seemed to say that one must rise above the need to strike back, that it is strength, not weakness. It is always the same. I always wonder why revenge or vengeance or honor killings. I heard once that a friend's cousin had come home one night demanding someone give him a gun. He had been insulted, so he had to kill the insulter. He was expected to be handed one in Delaware. The handing out of guns is a thing we do well. But this case doesn't seem a breaking point. The atrocities of October the 7th, about which I know nothing except I know how intrinsic such things are to history. They always happen sooner or later in states of oppression where some citizens are second-classed. They just do, from deep in history. And I guess, again, the defenders of Israel insist October the 7th has never happened before. It always has happened, and you have done it. Only cultures that no longer ask why, whose explanation never ranges to, I might have upset them, leaving the only logical alternative, they are evil human animals. It is a main consequence of monotheism, if not its only. We can't have done anything wrong, ergo, except they do know it. They are not dumb. They built the best universities, which quickly become the greatest inventors of the myth. Denial is the most energetic of mental functions. What began the Romeo and Juliet story? Did someone bite their thumb at someone that escalated into sword fight, accidental death, and off we go? That might be the feeling deep down, but this is between nations who seem to demand an enemy, to hold them together. We are united by not being them. The Jews are not idol worshippers. The Muslims are not this. The Americans are this. The English are this, not that. If you worship idols, you deserve to die. We cannot tolerate your evil in our neighborhood. You are not us. You worship idols. It is shocking, too, that the big three insist they are different and they are exactly the same at last. But we are all us, I said. And I have heard the rabbis, unique in religious descent, deeply orthodox ones who reject entirely Zionism. Yaakov Shapiro actually declares that Zionism is anti-Semitic. I do not share nor study the faith, but the notion of a religion unattached to land is pretty fascinating, and it does ring true to my religious sensibilities, which are, however, not about God, singular or male, and certainly not about community stronger than my bonds to everyone. Is it risky? Sure. Murderous naturalisms cannot be beaten. You must join them and create your own murderous nation. Suddenly claiming that I can defend this patch of land, expand my patch, move into and claim your patch from their patch with God on my side. This is not the best of it. This is not the best of us. It is the worst.